Over 340 lives were claimed in July of last year. Let's bring in Khanyi Magubane. Always great to have you as an independent political analyst. Khanyi, good morning to you. So there's a lot to talk about. I'm not sure if you heard my conversation with Tula Sizwe Simelane moments ago. The name Ayanda Dlodlo, when we talk about former intelligence, do you still view this as a failure of intelligence? And B, what would you like to hear from the President this morning? Khanyi, good morning.
A very good morning to you, Gareth, and your viewers. Indeed, the name Ayanda Dlodlo has become quite a key figure in these hearings, and we know that the first leg of the hearings started in KZN at the end of last year and have subsequently moved to Johannesburg. Now, in February, Ayanda Dlodlo, she made a very clear submission that the State Security Agency had briefed the security cluster about imminent violence that would be seen in South Africa. And she said that as far back as 2019, there had been skirmishes that had been picked up by the intelligence, and that the security cluster between 2019 to 2020 that produced 14 alerts, and that the security cluster definitely knew that there were alerts that had been issued. And she said that even specifically between February and July, there had been also alerts sent out to the police and other law enforcement agencies about imminent violence in KZN and in Gauteng because of the Constitutional Court judgment against former President Jacob Zuma with regards to the Zondo Commission and his non-appearance and, of course, his subsequent arrest and incarceration. She has said that if Begitele was expecting a private or a briefing from her personally, that I quote unquote, he was dreaming in color. So, Gareth, what has actually come out of these hearings is the complete breakdown within the security cluster. We know that former Minister of Defense, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, also testified at these hearings, and she said that her role was undermined greatly by certain senior members of the security cluster. And Begitele himself also went to the hearings and said that it's not true. The police never received any alerts from the intelligence, and this was also supported by KZN Premier Sihle Zikalala, who also said that they as police never received any alert. And this is quite worrying, where you're almost painting a picture where police are sitting with no alerts, so there's no action. Is that really what happened? I think that there's a lot of blame game taking place. Nobody wants to really take accountability for this. People are passing back from pillar to post. The former National Commissioner Kasi Tole saying it was the province's duty and the police there to actually act on the ground. And we've seen Ayanda Dlodlo saying that it was Begitele saying it was the intelligence. So at this stage, we're not really seeing anyone wanting to take responsibility for these July unrests. But what is clear is that there was a lack of proper response from the police, and there's also a lack of unity within the security cluster. And what we saw in July is actually part and parcel of the results of the breakdown within the security cluster. And this is very serious because these are very top agencies that are meant to keep South Africans safe. So when the elephants fight, ultimately it is the grass that suffered, and the grass we are talking about here, the tune of people who lost their lives. 340 people lost their lives. Businesses were destroyed. And for the most part, the Chamber of Commerce in KZN also testified at the hearings, saying that the business industry was left to its own defenses. Police were just
Let me
not
ask
willing
you about,
to
because we're talking about the state structures, and I couldn't agree with you more, because, and this is where it gets complicated in our political system in the country. What we've got is today the president of the country answering questions about exactly what you're talking about, a failure in communication, a failure in security structures. That's as the president of the country. Then you've also got the issue of him being the president of the ruling party and the factional fighting within the ruling party and the deployments within the ruling party. So how much of the factional infighting that we're all aware of, Khanyi, before I say goodbye to you, your last question to you, how much of the factional infighting do you think could have led to decisions in government not being made correctly?
I think there's a lot of influence that can be actually drawn between members of the ANC and the different factions that they're in and the positions that they occupy within the state. We've always known that the ANC has been accused of using state organs to fight their own factional battles. And we know that the police minister, Begitele, and Ayanda Dlodlo have been named as very key figures in the Zuma camp. And so the question was there an intentional slow reaction to actually enable the July unrest to take place? Because police have stated that they were told to stand down and not act. And we know that the police minister has been seen many times in Nkandla going to the former president, Jacob Zuma, and we don't know what they discussed there. We don't know if the July unrest was all part and parcel of the plan to destabilize the economy in terms of fighting for the former president to be released from jail. We know that many senior officials in government have been accused of using their positions to influence the way that the July unrest happened. So I'm expecting the president today to speak to that, to say, has the ANC used government and state organs to actually fight the unrest? Because we know that what happened in South Africa should have never happened if indeed what Ayanda is saying, that 14 alerts that were sent out. What was the reason? And the question to Ramaphosa today, and the hot question to the president, is if your state security is breaking down at this level, what assurance do we have as South Africans under your leadership that we are safe? If the police, the defense, and the intelligence can hardly work together, what hope do we have as South Africans? I'm definitely not expecting the president to fall on his sword and admit that the ANC factional battles were a direct factor in the July unrest. I think that would be unwise of him to do so, but I definitely think that he will try and speak to the fact that government tried its best to quench the violence, but it was too little too late. The violence had already started and the damage had already been done.
It really had, and we're going to be waiting to see exactly if the president is going to answer exactly the point that you are making about the breakdown in communications, both from a state level, both from an ANC political level, and that spillover that we then saw. There's a lot of questions, a lot of good points made by Khanyi Magubane, independent political analyst. That getting underway 9 a.m. this morning.